Hello, it's Kayla,
And Kittrick.
the Bells,
The Bells.
and we are here to share 4 tips of handling finances as a couple. Okay, so, we dated for like 3.5 years-ish before we started putting our finances together. So previously we would always keep them separate and we handled everything like roommate style. So let's actually talk about the styles for a few seconds. So when dealing with finances as a couple, there's no real wrong way. It's which way works for the couple. Look at the smile. It's which way works for the couple. And so there are 4 different styles. Roommate style, which is 50-50. Percentage style, which is whoever makes more money takes on the burden of more of the finances. So it could be like 60-40 or 70-30. And then old fashioned or traditional style, this is usually where the man pays for like 90% of stuff, period, and then the woman might pay for things here or there. And then last is the unit style, and that's where it's kind of like one income, one household. Like we see all the income as our income for our household. And so the first tip is picking a style. You need to determine which style is going to work better for you as a couple. Like I said, as we were dating, we did the roommate style. And then a few months after we got engaged, we decided to incorporate the unit style. And that's where we put like all of our finances together. It was definitely different.
For sure.
But, having an account and sharing it with someone, all the money going in there, when you make a purchase, I know for me, like when I make a purchase and he's like, well, what is this that you went to TJ Maxx? What were you doing?
Yeah, why are you sneaking out?
And I'd be like, you see that? Like,
yeah, cut back.
Like you don't have anyone checking you when you are the only one in the account. But like with us sharing, like I can see when he's spending all this money on food because, I never met anyone who could eat as much as him.
I'm a big man.
So, like you see these things that you weren't aware of in the beginning. And then I'll let Bae talk about the second one.
The second one as far as communication?
Yes.
Well, the second thing is communication. It's very important for us when we started for her to communicate because it was her idea to start trying out the unit style. And me being me, I was always, let's just stick to the roommate style. Let's just pay for it half. Let's keep our finances separate. But if we hadn't communicated and we hadn't established a plan together, then I wouldn't have been able to see the vision. I wouldn't have came to an agreement with her if I hadn't seen the vision, if we didn't communicate on moving on to the unit style. So communication was very important in this.
I will say, in a way, he made me a better financial coach because I had to present like, where are we going to be? How are we now? He wanted to know everything. Like I want to see every single thing. And so in a way, I think he strengthened me and like how I work with my clients. So I appreciate that, babe.
Yeah, and I'll say and she was very great at presenting all her work. She gave me the rundown, the budgets, this is what's going to happen. She communicated, and honestly, it made me feel a lot better seeing the projection and seeing how things are going to be allocated in that way. So communication in that aspect is important because I think it's important.
It's important. If you're communicating and you're on the same page all the time, you're not going to have, as many arguments or discrepancies. Like almost any relationship book you read or, anyone you talk to, a lot of couples struggle with finances. Like that's one thing that can drive a wedge in between a relationship or a marriage. And I definitely didn't want that to happen to us. So I wanted to make sure that we were always on the same page. Sometimes though he'll be like, oh my gosh, why are you still crunching numbers, Kayla? Like go to bed. And I'm like, but I'm almost done.
That's one thing too, it's ever changing. I noticed with it. 1 month it could be one way and another month it could be another way. And that's something I'm very appreciative of you for. because she's always, even though her crunching all these numbers be making me anxious sometimes. I'm just like, you just did this yesterday. Why is it changing so much? But that's the reality of things. So
yes,
I appreciate her for doing all that,
yes.
and it's very, very helpful.
Thank you, baby. Your budget always pivots, guys. Okay, and then so for number 3, willing to be open. You kind of talked about that.
Kind of talked about it, but I can elaborate a little bit more. With this, it does kind of tie into communication, but I would say being willing to be open, to being willing to receive help as well, because I'm the type of person, before we got together, if you need help from me, I'm going to be there. You need a jump, I'm going to be there. You need to move, tell me the date, I'm going to be there. You need some money, I give you the money. Don't even worry about paying me back. I'm just a servant by nature. But on the reverse side of things, when it comes to me accepting help from others, I struggle with that. And so with us, if I was still in that mindset, because the way I see things are, the way I came in, like say for instance, student loans and things like that, the way my mindset was, this is my loan. I accrued this debt. I did all this. This is my debt. Let me take care of it. This is my problem. Let me take care of it. Let me handle my problems.
But you can't be willing to take on the burden of everyone else around you and not be willing to have help or assistance. I am your partner in life.
Right.
So,
and it was
I did see him struggle with that. I was like, this is the plan. This is where I'm at. And he was like,
Yeah. So I don't want to put weight. It was just I didn't want to put weight on somebody else. I'm willing to take all the weight, but I don't want you handling my weight. And that's an ego thing. I have to admit, it's ego, but it's something that I've grown into kind of learning, and she's very helpful in helping me become more vulnerable in that aspect. So yeah, be willing to receive help, to look at other perspectives, and move forward accordingly.
Yes. And I'm actually going to jump back to communication, right? So like he mentioned student loans. It is so important to make sure that you're communicating with the person that you plan on marrying about your situation, as far as like how much debt you have or whatnot. Like when we entered the relationship, he did have more student loans than me, but he went to a private school. I didn't go to a private school, even though he was an athlete. So I was like, where was them scholarships, boo?
That's okay.
And he was like, yeah, it happened.
Yeah. And that was one thing too. I wasn't really, I guess, comfortable in the sense of just showing all of my debt and stuff like that with my partner. And I think that's a problem a lot of people have too.
A lot of people have.
They're afraid to be open in that aspect.
Because they're afraid of judgment, right?
Yeah, right.
And so, I mean, as far as being like a financial coach, I judge a little bit, but when I judge, I'm judging to educate. I'm like, well, you shouldn't be doing that, and this is what we can do to make sure you don't do it again. But I try not to be passing judgment where I'm like, oh, you messed up. Like, I don't try to approach a situation like that. Doesn't make that break someone down. That doesn't build them up. And like my purpose is to build someone up. And so like even when he shared his debt with me, he was like, I got like 50,000 in student loans, and I was like, well, I got like 35,000 in student loans, so we just gonna be here together. And then I got my second master's, and my job paid for some of it, and I was like, well, we're about even. And then I got my second master's, and my job paid for some of it as well. They didn't offer as much financial assistance, and I did get some scholarships, but I didn't get enough. And so now, like the other day, he was talking, I was like, I owe more than you now. So I was like, you entered with more debt, and I now have more debt. And so I feel like it's important that you are communicating those things so that you are not like stuck in your head where where he thought that I was going to pass judgment on him, and I'm not. I mean, like, I just want to know. I would rather know where we stand and where we are versus like wondering what in the world is going on. You have anything else to add to willing to be open, babe?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. And so I feel like the last thing is holding each other accountable. Like, I mentioned, right? Like if I like to treat myself every now and then, you know, I may go to TJ Maxx or something, and he'll just be like, you know, you might be doing too much. Or like one time, I guess like from his perspective, I was having like a lot of shoes that I was getting delivered.
I feel like it's a lot of women. A lot of women I talk to has that problem.
And I was like, in my mind, I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I bet you can't go 3 months without buying shoes. So I went 2 months. And then I bought some shoes. But in my defense, I bought the shoes for my bachelorette trip.
Yeah, let's go with that.
So, in my defense,
out of all the shoes we got in there, one of them could have been for the bachelorette. But you know, that's a conversation for another day.
You know, but we're not gonna just talk about me. This man will literally, we will cook food, he'll eat that food, and then he'll buy more food while he's out. I mean, granted, we're in quarantine now, so he has to be a little bit more controlled, which means we have to buy like more snacks and stuff. But we will literally cook meals for the entire week, and he will take his lunch and he will eat a side lunch. And so like, or a snack, or he'd be like, I just needed something extra. And so me holding him accountable, like I remember when like shortly after we put our finances together, I literally like did this whole report, and I was like, we spent this much money in food in 1 month. And he was like,
yeah, and that's helpful to see. That's helpful to see how much you're actually spending on stuff, because it puts things in perspective. Like, dang, I need to slow it down. One, it's bad for the pockets, and it's bad for the good.
Yes.
So you know, let's help out in all aspects.
For sure. And so I definitely think that if you pick a style that works for you as a couple, and if you communicate often and effectively to ensure you're on the same page, and if you're willing to be open when you find the person that you're meant to be with, no judgment. Okay, I accept you as you are. This is how we're gonna do it. And then holding each other accountable. So at the end of the day, this is my partner, and if I can't be vulnerable with him, who can I be vulnerable with? And so this approach has worked for us. We have paid off some debts. We're not debt free yet. Corona definitely like threw a loop on that. We decided to shift and focus on our emergency fund in case anything happened to one or the other person, so that we wouldn't be strapped for money if something did happen. So in the end of this month, we will have our 3-month emergency fund done with, and so we're gonna focus back on paying off our debt. And so in working on paying off our debt, it did like move our plans a little bit, and so we will still have like, I think like 3 smaller debts paid off at the end of the year. But by the end of 2021, the only things we'll have left is our student loans and the car loan, which we will talk about at a later date. I hope you all like these conversations that we share as a couple, and we would love for you to tell us any tips that you have implemented with your spouse, partner, husband, wife, and how has it benefited you, and why do you think it would benefit someone else?
That's right. I guess that's the end of the video. So I guess we're gonna end off by saying thank you all for listening. If you made it this far, thank you.
Thank you so much, and don't forget to check out this Instagram TV. We will also be posting this video on YouTube, and we will be sharing a blog post that has a few tips, tricks, and links.
Until next time, hasta luego, mi gente.
Adios.
Adios.